And today, we will be discussing the role of the black church in the black community. And for all intents and purposes, I need you to bear with me. And today, we will be discussing the role of the black church in the black community. And for all intents and purposes, I need you to bear as we go through a long history of trying to arrive to this point of what we are calling the African American Christian Church, aka the black church. Now, this topic goes back centuries, particularly not as far as when African Americans arrived to having black churches in America. We can go back to late early 1900s for that. But when the faith itself started to emerge and transpire to what it is, so we can have a little backdrop of how we got here. Okay, prior to the Torah and Judaism times, which is the time of Jesus of the Bible, and prior to that, like the Old Testament, you have, of course, the times of the Torah through the Old Testament, going back into Egyptian times, and before that, the Sumerian times. So that lineage of history and its transpiring to how we got here today is very critical for me to understand how I got to arrive to my conception of what the black church is and its role. Okay, so for all practical matters, we do establish two things that we have to agree on to first get to where I'm going with the point of this, is that there is a such thing as a black church and there's a such thing as a white church. The problem is the black church does not have the same power as the white church. And the reason being is because the church itself was not established for black people. Black people inherited this church, and we, like most things we did, made it our own. We added our sauce to it, if you will, our own swag. We added our own pizzazz and our own type of spirituality to it, which is why we have a different type of worshiping within our own sections of religion that we inherited through slavery or through adoption of, some people converting their faiths. But for the majority of people who are Christian of African American descent, it's because of heritage, it's because of tradition, and that tradition had a way of being either through enslavement or a different type of Christianity, such as Ethiopian Christianity or Orthodox Christianity, where they practice a different type of Christianity and believe in a different set of books. So does each section of Christianity, like the Catholics, like the Baptists, like the Mormons, like the Pentecostal, like the Methodists, Presbyterian. They all use different books, and the history can trace and show how these origins of these faiths were created. For instance, Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon faith, who was said to be in New York, and tripped up over a rock, and an angel came to him, and the tablets he found were the Mormon Bible, which was a Bible about Jesus coming to America after he died. And so that's a whole thing in itself, and I suggest you go look that up, and that's as recent as the 1800s. Similar events with the Baptist faith, which is the faith I grew up in, which was founded in the 1800s as well, which was shocking to me. And other faiths that are sprangful through the rise of what we call the Protestant Reformation, which was under Martin Luther, not to be confused with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther of Germany, who was a Catholic originally, and ended up creating a new faith due to his split of ideas of certain things, such as the Holy Trinity and having to go through the priest for prayer or communion with God, and the idea of God being living, and a host of other practical differences that created the Protestant Reformation and Calvinism and other forms of Christianity that will grow on to be what we call the Protestant Reformation. Over here, that has exploded in America in a number of different ways, from originally having its own different subcults and still does, such as the Quakers and the Shakers and other religious groups that are tied to Christianity in some ways, some more radical and some more just on the bigger, broader scale of being in the Christianity titlement as a broad whole. So when we get to the African American side of it, we have the AME Church. And the AME Church, as most people know, is probably one of the most founded churches for Black people. And it's don't spit out a lot of greatness as far as Black people are concerned, Black African Americans. And the reason that being is they have an understanding of their foundation and their spiritual practices communed with their position in the church. They understand the power structure that influences the political aspirations of being a Black church, and education as well. So most educated brothers and sisters are of those type of churches and foundations. Not to say any churches just specific to that, but these churches are more prone to be what you would call, quote unquote, Black successful. And the lesser churches, such as, well, let's just say lesser, let's just say a low income church, such as a lower income Baptist church, may not have the resources or the prestige following or people of their same caliber, but at the same time have the same influence and objective as that other church to collectively influence the youth, to collectively influence the peoples, to give them hope and aspirations, and what I would think to be in a genuine manner. But from my experience, from what I see in life and knowing the truth about these matters, is that's not what's always the case. There is a dark side, really dark side to the church. And I'm not gonna specifically point out any one church or any particular fraction of faith and religion, such as the Catholic Church or the Baptist or the Mormon or Pentecostal or any other church for that matter under the banner of Christianity. We'll just look at specifically the Black churches. Now, the Black churches now in current times are having a very difficult time retaining the youth's attention. They're having a very hard time keeping up with the age of information. They have a very hard time with staying true to their so-called ideologies and mythologies. And these things are now gripping a reality into this new decade that we are going into new times where we don't grow up in the churches like we did in our generations and priors. Churches are well still established, but with the effects of COVID, there are less and less people going to churches anymore. And violence and the youth's aggression is going up. And the connection with those things is not to be that there's a better way in church, there's a better way in social structuring, because church played a role in social structuring. And what I mean by that is not necessarily fueling your spiritual knowledge or wisdom, but more so your social behavioring, like how to cooperate and talk to people, how to have confidence, how to sing if you can't sing and not be afraid to, how to read out a poem or a lecture. These things all are used to better make you a well-rounded person, to be more equipped to dealing with life on the broader scale outside of the church. And you build relations with people. It's the fellowship, it's the family ties that you have, the support. They come to your ceremonies, your weddings, your baseball, football games, and your guys bonding. It's a social connection that the church offers people that goes just beyond the spiritual teachings that, in my opinion, would be the focus of my need for church, but it has not been the fulfillment of that. And I do not blame the church indirectly or directly for that, although they hold themselves accountable for being the place to come for my spiritual awakening and outlet, if you will. So when we get back to the role of why the church isn't the same as it used to be, or if it ever was, with the matters that we just said, we have other matters that play in a part. the ongoing police brutality, the ongoing injustice, the obvious racism. These things are addressed in some black churches, and some others, they're swept under the rug. And the silence is a contradictory to the big conception of God. These churches and faith all serve the same God, supposedly. Now, if you follow my original videos, I suggest you go take a look. If you haven't, you can understand my differentiation between God, devil, and the creator. These terms and understandings are critical for understanding why the church is in the position that it is. Because we don't know who controls these churches. We know who they're supposed to be worshiped to, but we also know the church is tied to everything that's evil in the world as well. Whether it be evil money that functions it, whether it be support for evil things that keep it going, whether it be hidden agendas from the people that are in power to these things. There are a lot of things to go in place to this. And this is not a first video that you probably heard about this, and it's not an attack on religion, because I understand religion as being a necessity for people and for all practical matters, social structure. But we do not have to be manipulated and enslaved by that to which we do not know, due to a lack of knowledge, a lack of care of the knowledge, or just not enough craftsmanship to maneuver through what I would call the bullshit. So the effects of the church not having a plan to be reactive to fast-paced knowledge, not having a plan to be retentive to keeping youth's attention with social media and other factors that play in the matter in today's time. The deep psychological warfare between the streets and the adherence to which we're trying to keep from the streets. The influence of the pastor and of the minister or the priest or whatever the leadership is to the people in terms of understanding their pain, understanding their needs, understanding their gaps in their mental to connect with their reality beyond their obvious daily problems. There is a need to confront why this is, not only for the matters of trying to reprimand him, but to better instate a unity for everyone. Because if we fix the black community, we can fix other relationships with other communities then, as far as always having to be in war or competition. That can be an end goal with the end goal in place if the other side is willing to listen. Most times that, has not been the case, but remaining optimistic, we would just say, unity and oneness should be the value of all. Separation causes pain. Separation causes hurt. And by that, even in the church, a divided church is not a united house or one body, as they say in the Bible. It is that work of the devil, as they say in the Bible. And what devil do we speak of? The one who conquers by dividing you, who is you, by not conquering yourself. Now, I hope that don't go over your head. But in the same sense of that being what the church plays a part of, it's like a catalyst. If I have to go to church every week to get a bandage for my spiritual wounds that I'm getting in the warfare, then I'm not really in the game of taking the church with me, because I need the church every day. The church should be in me. The church should never be something I have to go to once a week to try to get this recovery for this ongoing spiritual slaughter bath war that we're in every day in our mental, playing out in our physical, and playing out in other people around us. So the seriousness of understanding the need for a fellowship and of truth, I'm talking about not scripted, not rehearsed, not ritual type of truth, but I'm talking genuine, living, foretold, honest, transparent truth that you can only get from being you with yourself. And that comes with learning that inside of anything, especially like a situation of your faith, there comes a point to where you have to start to question yourself. And that question, it doesn't have to be negative. It could just be questioning why you are the way you are. Questioning why you even ask the questions that you do that nobody else cares to think about or even cares to have an answer for you. And we should owe it to ourselves to better understand that the church now is not so much a bad thing, because it did play a catalyst in keeping people sleep, in my opinion. It keeps people dumbed down. It doesn't want to dig deep. It gives you religion, and religion is simplicity and understanding the basics of rituals and overall understanding of some. But the details for me, and what's connect me to the highest source of what you call God, the Creator. Because it's the details that continue to reveal the truth, whether you want to see it or not, whether you're comfortable or not, whether you're ready for it or not. You witness it, and then with that witnessing, you embrace it, and it takes you in, or it overtakes you and takes you out. So let's take a look at what social structures we're building around this, with the destruction of this old way of life going out and a new one coming in. What can we do as a new generation to better guide these principles? We took the flaws that came with it. Let's look at the positives. Let's look how we can get the ball rolling to address these social issues that we have coming up with our kids, with ourselves continually, with the violence that we continually see, with the lack of wisdom and knowledge of who we are as a people, with the understanding that we don't have to go chase material things. We are material things inside of us to create abundantly. We have creation that goes beyond our imagination, beyond the realms of people's grip, over and over again in cultures and times in different parts of the world. We are it. A reawakening to that, a reawakening being cool with education, enlightenment of you, enlightenment beyond. Take their education of what they gave you, learn their tricks and lies, and multiply it. Dig deeper than the surface. Go look for your knowledge. Go look for your past wisdom. Yes, study your culture. Study your other religions that we had going on at the time of being taken away from slavery, for the good and bad purposes of both of those. Study that black magic they tell you don't look at and be scared of. Look at it. See what they were saying. Study the war between Napoleon and Lafayette of Hades. Study that. See what was behind that. Study Hannibal. Dig deeper. Go back to your history. Go deeper into what you want to be and how you have a connection with that in greatness that they don't want you to know, whether it be in the stolen legacy of the Egyptians or the Sumerians or any African continent raised group that has done great things on this continent, on this planet, around the world, achievements unseen. In the black church, for all practical matters, could have been something created not for us and took and made for us yet again, because it was for us and it is for us. And we magnify it by understanding what's in it and what's beyond it, what made it and what didn't make it, and how they used it to their advantage to keep us trapped mentally and it bonded us physically to us not being logically up on game of what they've been doing for so long now. And for the ones that do know what they have been doing, they've been trying to link back up with us, because deeper than the skin color issue, you got other assets. You have socialism issues, class, it's more to it than just this. It's the money game, because they got black people with money. You got white people with money. You got Arabs with money, Mexicans with money. It's people with money in every type of ethnic group. And they may get along more than, say, anybody with the skin color or their religious section or their creed or their gender, whatever. It's levels to the separation, which why we have to elude and take away each one of those separations, because we need togetherness. We need unity, man. We need unity. More than anything, we need understanding to try to be on the same page. No, shit not gonna be perfect. Nobody asking for kumbaya, man. What we saying is look at the reality of life being more than what we being told. We ain't gotta be in a fucked up situation no more than we letting ourselves be. And that's the point I'm making it about making a change now rather than later. Being proactive on looking now, then being avoiding of it later. Yes, let's take accountability as a whole within our community to look at things like what Martin Luther King or Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or a host of other people that I could just keep naming that have come out of greatness from the Black church. At the same time, this religion itself not being founded for our people, and we know this, makes it hard for the collective to genuinely see why they continue to even foster this narrative of the Black church. I would tell you, because if we do what they did, that's exactly what the Black church would be. It'll be a white church. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is when you don't include the whole, in the sense of we're not creating racism, we're creating the truth of what started it. Melanated things, melanated beings of all hues and shades of Black, which embody this whole world. So that mindset in itself could be the Black church, the Black synagogue, the Black mosque, the Black whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter the structure, matters the unity of the people. Flow what I'm saying? The unity of the people. I hope you enjoyed this episode. My next episode will even get further down the rabbit hole. I am taking suggestions. I am open to new things, and I hope you enjoyed yourself and learned a thing or two. I recommend for this content, you can read a host of books, including the Holy Bible, the Catholic Version Bible, the New International Version Bible, and of course, I always recommend the English tablets or the Holy Tablets, if you will, the 7 creations of the Babylonian creation. And it's very deep and very to the point, and a host of other books that I will tag later on in this. So thanks again. Be safe. Check me out. Like, subscribe, comment, follow all platforms. Thank you. The Scientific Spirits checking out.